Okay. Again, we apologize for getting a little bit late. We're just waiting for a quorum. So we'd like to go ahead and call this Santa Clara City Council meeting to order. I'm Mayor Rick Rosenberg. We have present 3 members of the council tonight: Councilman Shakespeare, Councilwoman Hinton, and Councilman Waite is here. So we appreciate them being here. We'd like to begin with an opening ceremony and pledge of allegiance. And since Councilman Drake is gone, I'll go ahead and stand and lead that. And then we'll have opening comments by, and I'm going to apologize in advance. Tahira Etenu with the Baha'i community. Close enough? Okay. Well, we appreciate you being here. Would everyone please rise and salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You ready? Just come up to the mic and welcome. We appreciate you being here.
O thou kind Lord, this gathering is turning to thee. These hearts are radiant with thy love. These minds and spirits are exhilarated by the message of thy glad tidings. O God, let this American democracy become glorious in spiritual degrees, even as it has aspired to material degrees, and render this just government victorious. Confirm this revered nation to upraise the standard of the oneness of humanity, to promulgate the most great peace, to become thy power, glorious and praiseworthy among all the nations of the world. O God, this American nation is worthy of thy favors and is deserving of thy mercy. Make it precious and near to thee, through thy bounty and bestow. Odu Baha.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming here and doing that for us. Okay, we do have general citizen public comment tonight on the agenda. If you do want to speak to the council, I need you to fill out one of these. So if you have come for that purpose. Ann Evans has come and would like to address energy. I'm wondering what you're going to ask us about, Ann. As many calls as been coming in.
That's the best part. I appreciate this. I do, because I know you don't do this every meeting anymore. So I'm really thankful. And I want to thank Mr. Hall for sending out these letters last year and this year. And this year was better. You put a lot more info in it. And when I was reading it, one line, one sentence, you could have saved yourself, but I'm really glad you did it anyway. One sentence: supply is down and demand for electricity is increasing dramatically. Okay, we're all in agreement with that sentence, right? We all know this is happening for real. This isn't a make-believe. So my salient point here is, knowing this, why are we, TRC committee, city council, I don't see planning here, but why are we building so many developments and high density? Why, when we know water short, electricity short, why are we trying to make the community so much larger when we don't have the resources to handle what we have now? Anyone speak? Anyone speak?
We have general plan that we're trying to adhere to. And it's hard to take away a right or take away a private property right to be able to do something. I mean, the council has changed, but there has been a more of a reluctance to approve some of the higher density stuff in recent past. We're working to get more power reserves that we can put online with the generator and everything. The market is just, I mean, it's doing some wild and crazy things right now, and the power cost adjustment is helping offset some of that. Even if your existing population base, Gary was talking to us today, or Kate was talking to us today, that Hurricane lost $1 million in 1 month out of their reserves. And that's not new growth. That's existing growth low and the load demand from coming, from that growth. And so, I wish we controlled the price of natural gas, and I wish we controlled the ability to put new resource on. We're looking to some new resource. We're still a few years out on some of that. But council, anything else you want to add to that? You've been in those discussions as well.
I would just add that, that's the question, but where do you draw the line? You draw it after you move in or before you move in. It's not as simple to say we're stopping growth. Legally, you'd lose $1 million in a lawsuit if you said that in land rights and property rights and all of that. So energy efficiency is much better, but the problems nationwide with coal going offline and unreliable sources coming online. That's just it's a policy problem that's driving it, not a growth problem. And we've done a really good job hedging for that, adding 2 more generators that we can control what we can produce. Energy codes are much better. Your densities, your higher densities don't change your energy use a lot. Your air conditionings are still based on square footage, and so larger homes are still going to pull a lot of that load. You're going to 400 amp services and 600 amp services in those larger homes. So it's really a difficult thing to say we're a moratorium on growth, because I believe any municipality would lose that in a legal fight for land use and everything else. You have to, because we all moved, most of us moved here. I mean, at some point, everybody's moved here. And so, I'm just as frustrated as you are, not with here in Santa Clara, but nationally, just knowing we've got resources and affordable resources. I look at coal going, if you went back 40 years on coal, looked at the emissions that coal put off, what it does today, we've made great strides in clean coal, and yet we've demonized it. And we have a ton of coal. Yet nationally, we've demonized it. So then we put things out that are expensive, that have short lifespans. And here we are. And unfortunately, reading the articles and what's the policies that are being put out there, I don't see it getting any better. And I share your frustration, and I'm sure most of us do. So,
Well, is there any way? I mean, I'm not talking about single family dwellings, because yes, we have to have housing, but so many high density, up by Harmon's and out there on Northtown Road, that's going to be huge. And if they ever start at the field at the end of my street, and I don't know everything that's going in the valley, but I don't know while this is going on, and I keep hoping that Biden goes to outer space or something, but because I'm not a Biden fan or his policies. Obviously, I don't think any of us are, because they're so outlandish. But that's all I'm asking. When you guys are looking at these big developments and it goes through planning and it gets to you, that's really what my concern is. And my neighbors also, they always come to me and say, will you go down and talk? And I'm like, oh, those people are saying. But anyway, I'm here, and I really appreciate you giving me the chance. I'm happy that you'll put up with this once a month and can hear our concerns.
Well, can I just respond? I'm sorry, too. We have put into place, and I think it's countywide, if a new development is going in, they have to be able to bring evidence that they'll have water for that development. So they're bringing water if they get to come into the city. And so we're not outpacing that water use in what we approve.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Any other yellow slips? Okay, well, we appreciate those comments. Okay, council conflicts and disclosures. Is there anything on the agenda tonight that you may have a conflict of interest in that you need to disclose? I need to disclose a conflict with item number 3. The firm I'm employed with is done the engineering on that one. Any other conflicts, council? Okay, we'll move into the working agenda. We do have a public hearing scheduled for tonight. This is a public hearing to receive public input regarding amending the Santa Clara City Consolidated Fee Schedule. Brock? Or
Mr.
Cody?
Hill. This is coming back from the ACE, the code enforcement, and the fees that'll be associated with that.
That's exactly right. Good evening. The recently adopted administrative code enforcement ordinance is lacking in support of the fee schedule to initiate applicable fees and fines associated with the administrative violations. The proposed amendment to the consolidated fee schedule recommends fees to be assessed with administrative citations and administrative code enforcement actions. I sent in a let's go to the administrative citation so we can kind of look at what we'll be looking at. This was what I sent to Chris this afternoon. Did it make it?
Afternoon.
Oh, that was okay. So when we sent out, I showed this at one of the meetings when we were talking about the adoption of the administrative code enforcement ordinance. There it is, perfect. So down at the bottom, it talks about the civil penalties. It starts with a warning and then it goes into a graduated fee schedule. $100 being the first fine, and then I've submitted in my with the amendment to the consolidated fee schedule 200 as the second. This sheet shows 250. It's not accurate. It's just for a demonstration, and then the fifth and final, well, not final, because it could continue if the violation is not deemed compliant, it would be $500 and it would continue. The second part of the amendment that I'd like to see put into the fee schedule is once there's a notice of violation issued, then it would seek penalties of $25 per day for violation until the violation is rectified. And then along with that, it also asks for the court costs. So retaining the time of the administrative judge. I think that's, and then there's some fine for the recorder to the recording fees to if the fees end up on record from a title with the property, then there's some fees that would be recouped with that as well. But the bulk of it is just the $100 for the first, 200 for the second, 500 for the third. And then the second part goes with a notice violation, $25 per day per violation until it is deemed compliant, and court costs. Any questions for me at this time?
Questions, council?
So when does the $25 per day start?
Well, when a notice of violation sent out, it starts out with a warning and with a compliance date. And so the compliance date would be 15 days after the date of the courtesy notice. And so then they have the opportunity, as you'll see, there's something similar there that if you scroll down just a little bit more, they have the option to request a hearing. And so it would be the date that they didn't come into compliant from the compliance date dated on the courtesy notice. Now, if they go before the judge and the judge says, hey, this is a misinterpretation of the code and they're not found guilty of violation of city ordinance, then those fines be swept. Now, of course, being on this side of it, we don't want to go before a judge unless we know we have a solid case. So to answer your question, from the date that the violation takes place from the courtesy notice expiration date.
Okay.
But it can be lengthy. They're $25. But by the time you get everything in order and end up in court, it could be 2 to 3 months. So the $25 a day doesn't maybe seem like much, but it stacks up.
Any other questions, council?
Maybe just how many citations now are you? I mean, in a given month, how many citations are going out?
I average 0 since I've been here with Santa Clara City. That's not my goal. My goal is compliance. And I've been pretty fortunate in being able to work with the contractors and some of the citizens on compliance. So this is just a tool we need in place. I guess one of the reasons why I can kind of boast is I didn't have the tool in place when I did need it, and that's what drove me to the point of adopting the ordinance. I didn't have any. I ran out of resources. But there's been one case in my short time here in Santa Clara that I would have initiated a courtesy notice and then evolved into a notice violation. I sent the courtesy notice and then I didn't have anything to back it up with.
Okay.
Are you done? I think that Jarrett's right. I think on your fee schedule, you might want to add some language on the $25 per day violation, because I don't see where that says it's going to start either. And maybe it says it on the application, but it just says $25 per day violation. And you might want to just say beginning with the compliance due date or something like that.
Okay, I can look at that.
Any other questions, council, before I open it up? Thank you, Cody. This is a public hearing. Anyone who has come to address this specific item to the council, I'd invite you to come to the podium and state your name and your address. Tell us a good joke. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Council, with your permission, I would jump down to item B1. This is the discussion and action to consider amending the consolidated fee schedule by adding the fines associated with administrative violations and approve resolution 2023-06R. You've heard the presentation, you've heard the public comment. Any questions or additional discussion on this item? If not, I would look for a motion.
I'll make the motion that we amend the consolidated fee schedule by adding the fines associated with administrative violations and approve resolution 2023-06R.
I'll second that.
I've got a motion by Ben and a second by Krista to amend the consolidated fee schedule and add the fines associated with administrative violations and approve resolution 2023-06R. Any question on that motion, council? This is a resolution. Roll call vote. Ben?
Aye.
Krista?
Aye.
Jarrett?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Go back to the consent agenda. You have before you, council, the approval of the claims and minutes, the February 22nd, 2023 regular city council meeting minutes, and the claims through March 8th, 2023. You've also got the calendar of events. We have a city council work meeting next week. That work meeting, council, is going to start at 4:00.
Yes, with the site visit.
We're going to meet here and then we'll travel together to a site visit up at Black Desert. So kind of make note of that. We're meeting at 4:00 and then regular city council on the 22nd. Are you guys all going to be here next week?
Yeah.
Jarrett? Okay, on the 22nd. I know this month families go on vacation and stuff, and I know Lena's not going to be here next week, so we should have a quorum. That's good. Thank you, council. With that, I'd like a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda with the approval of claims and minutes and the calendar of events as presented.
I'll second.
Got Got a motion by Kristen, a second by Jarrett to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any question on that motion? This is a money item. Let's do roll call. Jarrett,
Aye.
Krista,
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Item B2 on general business. This is discussion and action to consider a proposed PDC zone amendment and site plan application for the undeveloped property at the corner of Lava Flow Drive and Santa Clara Drive, adjacent to the Heritage Point Townhomes. The applicant is Keith Reber. He proposes to develop the site to include a 5,000 square foot professional office building. The subject property is 64/100 of an acre in size. Jim?
Thanks, Mayor. Let's go ahead and go to the site plan. And I believe, I don't know if Keith Reber is on the call, but his representative or architect Jeff Mathis is with us if there's questions for council members.
Is he on Zoom, Brock?
Keith Reber is.
Is, okay, so
Okay,
Keith is on
Great.
Zoom.
I just wondered because he attended planning commission that way a few weeks ago and his architect was here as well. So here's the site plan. As we talked about, it's that corner of Lava Flow Drive and Santa Clara Drive. If we scroll up just one plan, I just wanted to show you the overall original project plan that included this as a future commercial development area. So we had this parcel shown and we had the parcel on the corner of Country Lane and Santa Clara Drive shown, which is Country Lane Commons that we've been working with Rick Schofield on. That's going to be moving forward soon. So it's exciting that we have another use here. In this case, it's a doctor's office building. So let's go ahead and slide back down. You can see the site plan here. The building's just under 5,000 square feet in size. They're proposing 2 office spaces. Access will come via Santa Clara Drive onto Heritage Drive. So the primary access will be off of Santa Clara Drive. The site plan doesn't show up, but there's also a secondary access that could be utilized off of Lava that comes up into this area, but it's more likely that people will come to the site and leave the site via Santa Clara. You can see the access off of Heritage Drive and it flows into a parking lot. It includes 31 parking spaces, 2 of which are ADA accessible to meet the building code requirements. There's a 5-foot walkway in front of the building to meet the ADA requirement that ties into the neighborhood sidewalk system as well as Santa Clara Drive. So the layout's nice. And then on the far northeast end, you see a dumpster enclosure located on the site. However, the minimum 10-foot landscape buffer on Santa Clara Drive, Lava Flow Drive, as well as that access road and along the interior will help screen and buffer that. So it's a good location and landscape material will be put in place as well. Let's scroll down to the next image. So these are some elevations that they put together showing you all 4 sides, but I'd like to go down one image more, which is a better view. It's kind of rendering the east elevation that you'll see as you come into town. You can see the doctor's office and dentist is what they're showing. We believe the building materials are pretty nice, what they're doing here. They've got light gray and dark gray, a brick veneer, which is a Coronado used brick. You see the metal awnings and window treatments and cable supports. And then we have architectural metal panels as well to help break that facade up. And then above that, we have parapet walls with the white stucco, and those will be utilized to screen any rooftop mechanical equipment from view. And so we feel the design is pretty nice and will be a nice addition to the community. If we scroll down to the landscape plan, which I believe is, here we go. You can see that they've got a nice landscape plan that they put together. The site, the total landscape area is just over 11,000 square feet, so approximately 39% of the site. So it's a good amount of buffer. It will be required to meet our water efficient landscaping and conservation standards ordinance. It'll be a drip system, very limited sod areas. And again, they do have the additional 10-foot landscape buffer on all street frontages as required by code. They will be doing some outdoor lighting. They'll be required to comply with our code, specifically chapter 1732.070. It specifically regulates the maximum height of lights, parking lot lights to 16 feet. And so they'll have to submit and be compliant with that. And then the lighting has to be shielded and directed downward to avoid any light spill. We talked about the parking a few minutes ago, 31 total spaces. Our proposed, the code requires a minimum of 20 spaces. And so they're over code requirement by 11 spaces. Dr. Reber has indicated that they have a lot of people come and go, and parking's always at a premium, especially with 2 practitioners. No fencing is proposed. As you know, Heritage Point, the planned development residential has fencing in the area. And then project signage, if you go back up to that rendering and kind of minimize it a little bit, that one. So there will be 2 signs proposed on the face of the building, the east elevation, and then you see the monument sign on the corner of Lava Flow Drive and Santa Clara Drive. When we get more specific information or detail from the sign companies, that will have to go back to the Planning Commission for approval of the sign package for a PDC zone property. But it's a nice building. The areas where they show the signs as well as that monument sign can be done very tastefully. Water availability is something we always talk about, and it's come up a lot recently. They have to provide documentation from the Conservancy District or other verified, the will serve letter and other verified documentation. And then we've asked for a dust control plan, which we're doing with all of our new projects. You know, in the spring and summer months when it warms up and we get those south winds, we want to make sure we don't have a blowing dust problem while site construction commences. As far as a neighborhood response, we did send property owners notices as required by state code to within 300, our code and state code, 300 feet of the subject property. We also posted a sign to meet the state code requirements prior to the public hearing with the Planning Commission. And that was done on February 23rd. We have not received any responses from any adjacent property owners or neighbors with any comments. This use does comply with the general plan. There's some information documented in the staff report, but it's Main Street commercial, and this is a professional office use, which is in compliance with the general plan. We're compliant with state code, specifically section 1098-208 for an amendment or zoning map amendment such as this. We believe we've met all state codes and also posted this on the state website. The planning staff recommendation is as follows. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on February 23rd of 2023 and forwarded a recommendation of approval to the City Council. City staff recommends that the City Council approve the PDC zone amendment and site plan for the Keith Reber Medical Office Building subject to the conditions in the staff report. And there's a total of 12. And I'm here if the council has any questions. Also, the project architect's here, and I believe Mr. Reber is on the line as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Jim. Questions for Jim before he sits down, council?
I have one.
Mhm.
Does that PDC zone on the 31 parking spaces
Mhm.
requires the 5% landscaping in that parking lot? Is that right?
It's 30 spaces or more, requires the landscaping.
And did we meet that with? the
Yeah,
design?
we do. We do. The code requirement is less parking, but he wants more parking. But the way it's designed with all the landscaping, we meet that intent.
Okay.
With the
Thank you.
design here. Thank you.
Other questions, council?
Was it contemplated there'll be any spillover from the vacation rentals into this parking lot, if that'd be a concern for anyone?
That was asked about, and Mr. Reber mentioned that there is an active HOA there, and they would likely, if they have some signs put on the property that say for use of the medical office, patients only. So they would be allowed to put some of those signs in the parking lot if they have to. They're not anticipating that, but it could happen. There are 5 or 6 spaces right across the street by the amenity in the pool. So hopefully that would take care of it, but that did come up during Planning Commission.
Okay.
Yep.
Other comments, council, or questions for Jim? Okay, thank you, Jim. Mr. Reber, did you want to add anything to Jim's report? You don't have to, but I'll give you the opportunity.
Boy, I think Jim covered it very well. Thank you very much. I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay, I'm assuming Jeff, you don't have anything to add as the architect? If you have questions for the architect, he is in the audience. Okay, council, Any other discussion on this item? If not, I would look for a motion.
I can make that motion. I move that we approve the proposed PDC zone amendment and site plan application for the undeveloped property in the corner of Lava Flow Drive and Santa Clara Drive adjacent to Heritage Point Townhomes as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, I've got a motion by Jarrett and a second by Krista to approve the PDC zone change amendment and site plan application for the undeveloped property at the corner of Lava Flow Drive and Santa Clara Drive adjacent to Heritage Point Townhomes. Is there any question on that motion? Let's do roll call on it. Jarrett,
Aye.
Krista,
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Guys have it. Thank you. Thanks for being there, Mr. Eber. Thanks for coming, Jeff. When are you gonna get started? All right. Man of action.
Groundbreaking.
Okay, item number B3 is discussion and action to consider a proposed general plan amendment application for property located approximately 2276 Arrowhead Trail, described as 1.48 acres. Split Rock Construction's proposing a general plan amendment from low density residential LDR and Main Street commercial MSC to medium density residential MDR for the property. Proposed general plan amendment is part of a process to allow for single family residential subdivision. And approve ordinance 2023-08. Council, if you recall, this is the site that was formerly requested man caves. It was denied. They've come back with the single family subdivision. Jim?
Thank you, Mayor. Let's go ahead and pull up the concept plan that they've submitted for the property. And thank you for project kind of going through a lot of the items, but let's go ahead and discuss it. We've got the concept plan. It's before you. They're asking that the property go from, one designation to another designation, in this case, medium density residential, to move forward to accommodate an R16 subdivision. So we've divided the two applications. The first application before you this evening is a general plan amendment application. If the council elects to approve that, then the applicant will proceed with a property rezoning application to the R16 zone, which is the zone we created in the last year for infill type of projects or properties such as this. As you can see, it's 1.48 acres in size, has frontage on Arrowhead Trail as well as Lava Flow. It's a unique piece of property. It is definitely an infill piece, kind of the last piece remaining in that area with frontage on Arrowhead Trail. And so the concept plan was submitted to give us an idea of what's intended for the property for both Planning Commission and the City Council to take a look at it. The actual concept plan isn't required with the general plan amendment or a proposal to an R16 zone, as it is with the PDR. As the mayor indicated, we went through a big process with the applicant previously for the PDC zone amendment and all that information required with the rezoning in the project plan. So they're doing this in an effort to give us an idea of how the property would develop. As you know, the MDR allows for a range of 3 to 12 units per acre. However, the applicant intends to develop a single family subdivision with 7 lots, and this equates to 4.76 units per acre. So I think the R16 would potentially be good for this particular site. Notices were sent to property owners within 300 feet of the property. We also posted the property with a sign as per state code. City staff did not receive any responses prior to the public hearing with the Planning Commission on February 23rd of 2023. As we talked about before, we had a split land use designation on the property previously, where we had both the low density residential and the Main Street commercial. At this point, the applicant's asking that we just go with the medium density residential for the entire property and not have that split designation to avoid the confusion. The staff report goes through general plan items. And what it talks about in section 2.5 is appropriate land use transitions. So that's one of the items. It encourages gradual transition in housing types and densities, especially near commercial developments along arterials and major intersections to ensure compatibility with adjacent existing developments. So this seems like a really good piece that meets that requirement. Section 3.3 of the general plan includes residential density ranges and average density and states some of the following. In most areas, the density designation may be considered an overall average to be achieved by using a mix of unit types and or lot sizes within a range. For example, in the MDR, the average of 5 units per acre could be achieved by mixing single family homes with townhomes. Now, in this case, that's not what's being proposed. They're looking at going with the R16, which is a single family zone for detached single family homes. Section 3.3 of the general plan talks about density transitions. It says in general, gradual higher densities are encouraged near mixed use commercial developments along arterials and at major intersections. Land uses and building types on both sides of a street should be similar. Transitions between land use, size and type of buildings should occur in the middle of the block rather than in the middle of the street. So it meets that criteria as well. And then section 8.11 of the general plan goes through the street classifications. As we discussed last time, both Arrowhead Trail and a portion of Lava Flow are identified as local streets according to table 7 within the general plan. So briefly, the new application and previous decision, as was previously indicated, the previous application was denied by the City Council on January 25th of 2023 to allow for a PDC commercial designation allowing for a man cave type unit. At that time, we did recommend that the applicant consider doing an R16 zone and a general plan amendment to medium density residential. And that's the application part 1 that we have before us tonight. We meet state code, section 10.9A.404, which includes requirements for a general plan amendment. And our planning staff recommendation on this application is as follows. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on February 23rd, 2023, and forwarded a recommendation of approval to the City Council. City staff recommends the City Council approve the proposed general plan amendment for the property located at approximately 2276 Arrowhead Trail, described comprising of 1.48 acres. Subject to the following findings. 1, that the proposed general plan amendment complies with section 2.5 of the general plan, appropriate land use transitions. 2, the proposed general plan amendment complies with section 3.3 of the general plan, residential density ranges and average density. 3, the proposed general plan amendment complies with section 3.31 of the general plan, density transitions. 4, that the proposed general plan amendment complies with section 8.11, table 7 of the general plan, Santa Clara street classification system. And 5, that the proposed general plan amendment to the MDR land use designation is in harmony with the existing single family neighborhood. Now, those are the comments that staff has for this particular item. Thank you, Mayor. And the applicant's representative is here if you have questions.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Questions for Jim before he sits down, council?
Just on the zoning, this will require a zone change then.
Yes.
Okay.
And that we'll start that process next. So.
Any other questions? Jared, anything to add? Jared, anything to add? Any questions for the applicant, council? No other questions or discussion? I'd look for a motion.
Oh,
Maybe.
so now I was for the first one, so I'm gonna leave it to you guys.
I can make it, that's fine. All right, so I move that we approve the proposed general plan amendment application for the property located approximately 2276 Arrowhead Trail, described as 1.4 acres, moving it from low density residential and Main Street commercial to medium density residential as presented, and approve ordinance 2023-08.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion by Jarrett and a second by Krista to approve the general plan amendment as presented. Any question on the motion, council? Again, let's go roll call for the ordinance. Jarrett,
Aye.
Krista,
Aye.
Ben,
Hi.
the ayes have it. Motion's approved. The Thanks, Jared. Number 4, discussion and action to consider proposed code amendment to Title 16 subdivisions and Chapter 17.04 general provisions of city code. This includes updates to the subdivision ordinance, zoning ordinance, and general cleanup, and approve ordinances 2023-04 and 2023-05. Santa Clara City is the applicant. Jim?
Thanks, Mayor. So the city council will recall that we discussed this item in a work meeting on February 1st, 2023. Additionally, this item was discussed with the Planning Commission on February 9th of 2023. Both the council and the Planning Commission were in favor of proceeding with this item. Since that time, we did move forward with the item and had a public hearing with the Planning Commission on February 23rd, 2023. And they did forward a positive recommendation to the city council. They did have one change to the proposed text. This includes allowing for a letter of credit as a third option to section 1628.020, which is the guarantee form, which is the third bullet point that you see in the staff memo. And so as a third option, city staff recommends that the city council approve the proposed code amendments. And this is to Title 16 subdivisions and Chapter 17.04 general provisions, with consideration of the change to section 1628.020. And so I know that came up during our discussion on February 1st. I remember Lena asking that question, and Ben, you may have asked it as well. We had multiple planning commissioners. I know that Shelley Harris works in the banking industry. Mark Hendrickson and Mark Weston both work in the business of development. And Logan Blake is a licensed professional engineer. The four of them did ask if a letter of credit could be added for a third option. Now, the statute or state code, as Matt discussed previously, requires 2 options for guarantee. They're just asking that the council consider the third option because each one of them have experience with the letter of credit and have used them at one time or another. So that was the one caveat. And, you know, the language I think is pretty good. We've had the discussions, we had the public hearing with the Planning Commission. Matt also has an additional change that he brought up to me earlier today based on some of the improvements on Vineyard Drive and recent discussions. And Brock, if you could bring that up, that document up, he can go through that suggested change to a portion of Chapter 16. It's pretty slight, but we need to make sure we're clear on the language.
Thanks, Jim. And I can just introduce this as Brock's pulling it up. The mayor and I had talked previously about making this ordinance also consistent in the street requirements with the decisions that we made recently on Vineyard Drive. And so in the streets section that talks about the required street improvements in subdivisions, we made a few changes to make the ordinance consistent with what has been done on Vineyard Drive with the residents there. I reviewed these with Jim and with the mayor this afternoon, but wanted to call them to your attention as well. So it's going to be in Title 16.
It's just, you gotta go into the.
I think you're getting close.
It's not in the portfolio, you gotta.
Well, I can summarize for you as.
Here we go. Yeah, that's the right document.
Okay, yeah. Now, if you scroll down, I think it's probably about 2/3 of the way down in this document, I'm guessing.
There we go.
Okay, that's it. So if you'll go to just the previous page there, Brock. So that's pretty small, but I can just give you an idea of what these changes are.
I
Brock,
think
would you
this
go up?
is in your packet. I think it's page 79.
Yeah, and I don't know if the one in your packet is the most
This one's
recent
not,
version.
yeah.
Oh, it's different.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why we wanted to get this on the screen for you. So, okay, just right there, those blue changes. So if you'll recall in this streets ordinance, we had a list of, I'd call them candidate streets that could be that where residents on those streets, property owners on those streets could come to the city and say, hey, we want to make improvements. And then this defined how the costs of those improvements would be divided between the city and the residents. So I've eliminated East Vineyard Drive and Central Vineyard Drive from this list because we're now addressing those portions of Vineyard. So they no longer need to be covered here. Brock, if you'll scroll down to the next blue modification. There we go on this table. This is a bit messy with the red lines, hard to see what this addresses, but basically what we've done in this table, this defines what is the property owner's responsibility and what is the city's responsibility to pay for. Essentially what we've done is made it so the property owners have to pay for sidewalk. They have to pay for or provide any right-of-way or utility easements that are required. They have to provide for bonding for the improvements if the city requires it. We haven't made this, we haven't mandated this, but said the city can require bonding if it chooses. We've also provided that the property owners have to pay for new lateral connections to their property. So for example, if their lateral connections are substandard or need to be replaced, they would pay for those. Or if they wanted to upgrade, like we've told the residents, if they want to go from above ground power to below ground power, we've given them that opportunity, but they have to pay for it. And then the last thing is they pay for their own legal and professional fees associated with, whether it's reviewing, costs or documents or whatever, that's their responsibility. And then on the city side, we have the city paying for asphalt and base, regardless of width. We have the city paying for curb and gutter. We have the city paying for civil engineering, including surveys. We have the city paying for utility replacement and upsizing, not including the new laterals that we talked about. We have the city paying for streetlights, and we have the city paying for the city's legal and professional fees. So I think that's pretty consistent with what we decided on the two sections of Vineyard. The mayor asked me to modify this to make it consistent with that. And so that's what we've tried to do. There is one other change, Brock, if you'll scroll down just to the next paragraph. The bottom of that paragraph, there was a provision here that said, if somebody in the group of property owners does not pay, that the city would hold the entire group responsible for that. We thought that was a little onerous, so we went ahead and just deleted that. So those are the changes to that section. And other than that, you've seen all the other revisions. So
Matt,
is there a provision on how are we collecting it? Have we decided that yet?
the first phase, Brock and Dustin went door to door, and they basically were met with open arms. People were ready to bring checks. There was only one entity that asked for some terms, and so we're working with that one person with a monthly payment plan. So.
And then before there had to be at least 50%. So if some of those other streets, and I think one of those is done, isn't South Arrowhead complete?
It's not all the way done.
Is it not all the way done?
There's still some improvements left to do on it. A section of it was done last year, but not the entire thing. Still got a section on it.
And so what triggers, before we had talked, there would have, if we got 50%, that would.
Well, we were wanting to get like 10 adjacent property owners to come in so that you didn't have a single property owner coming in and wanting to do their improvements, where you would end up with curb and gutter that would be across one lot and not on the adjacent lots. We wanted some economy of scale, and plus we want to be able to finish sections at a time so that it's not piecemeal. And so back when you're probably thinking of the when we were talking about special improvement district, the 50% to approve. But I think we're just, groups of citizens can come in and I think the city's going to try and work with that group to be able to put it in and have meetings like we had a couple months ago with the Vineyard residents and explain it. We've got the first two phases are, ready to go. The water line's been installed in there and the contractor has started on the first phase. They're working on storm drain improvements now. And so we'll get those sidewalk fees collected and move into the second phase probably after the first of the new fiscal year in July. This has like 80%. We wanted 80% of the owners within a group to come in, so that we knew that we know we're going to have to work with some residents. We don't want it to be, want 10% of the residents driving the bus.
Yeah.
We want to have a good number of those residents so that it's works kind of like it did on phase one. We had a lot of people that were ready for it and have been appreciated and ready to pay. And that's kind of how we're doing it.
Well, and how we pay for it too. I don't think we want to run on these roads.
No,
right
and
away.
this
Probably want
is
to
all-
stagger them out over 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, they're subject to funding by the city being a big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if they all requested it at once, we would have to put it on some type of a schedule to phase it in as we have funds available to do it.
I would anticipate when we're done here that, everyone's going to be driving that and seeing the improvement and knowing what can be done.
Yeah, I think you may get some others come forward and that's great. We can kind of work with them on a schedule. Or maybe a couple of years away. And depending on what happens, within the budget and other things that we can't control, like the warm rain that's going to hit the snowpack this weekend. So, it's these phases can be delayed if necessary.
And Ben, I would just add, you probably saw this, but we haven't changed the 80% that the mayor referred to. It's still in there as the trigger. There are also some provisions that are already in there that talk about the city council having discretion to decide on timing and priority and things like that. Mostly this is designed to be a mechanism by which the property owners can, trigger the evaluation and the decision-making process, but it still leaves the city in the driver's seat and we haven't changed any of that. So.
Okay, council, any other questions on this? All right, no other questions, and I would look for a motion.
I'll do this one. I move that we approve the proposed code amendment to Title 16 subdivisions and Chapter 17.04 general provisions of city code, including updates to the subdivision ordinance, zoning ordinance, and general cleanup, and approve ordinances 2023-04 and 2023-05 as presented.
Second.
Got a motion by Krista and a second by Ben to approve the code amendments to Title 16 and Chapter 17.04 in the city code as presented, including ordinances 2023-04 and 2023-05. Any question on that motion, council?
As staff, I just have a question. Are you going with the letter of credit as the third
Yeah.
form of guarantee? Okay,
That would include that, right, as presented?
Yes.
thank you.
Any other questions? This is ordinance, roll call vote. Ben?
Aye.
Krista?
Aye.
Jarrett?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 5, discussion and action to consider approval of the service agreement between Terry Forbes and Santa Clara City to transcribe City Council, Planning Commission, Heritage at Hillside, and TRC minutes for Santa Clara City. Brock?
Yeah, so for many years, Laura Squires took care of our minutes for city council. And that she had to be done, is having surgery, and so had to be done. So we spoke with Terry Forbes, who was already doing some of our planning commission and other meeting minutes, and asked if she would be interested in taking on a few more items of minutes, and one of those is council and TRC. And so Chris spoke with her, and she said she would be willing to do those additional meeting minutes. And so the contract that we have before you is the same one we had with Laura Squires, just added in the additional meetings that Terry would be doing, and also at the rate of $37.50 hourly rate that she would charge for the minutes. Other than that, it's the same contract that we had with Laura, just the change in rate and what meetings that she would do. So.
Okay, any questions for Brock on that agreement, council? I'm assuming Matt's looked it over.
I don't think
Not this.
I haven't seen this one.
No, it's the same. This contract that was put together with Terry or with Laura. We didn't add back with Matt because all we changed was the rate and added the meetings from just being city council to also doing Heritage, Hillside, TRC, and now I'm planning commission and city council, whereas Laura was just doing city council. So we didn't.
Yeah, and if you want me to look at it, you can approve it subject to legal review.
Yeah. It was created. This was a contract Matt created for Laura back then. So
He's just a lot better now, a lot more experienced.
That's
So
right.
he may want to review his own work.
It's true. Never hurts.
I know I felt comfortable that with only those few changes that we were good moving forward.
Okay, questions, council? There's no questions. I'd look for motion.
I move that we approve the service agreement between Terry Forbes and Santa Clara City to transcribe for City Council, Planning Commission, Heritage, Hillside, and TRC minutes as presented and subject to legal review.
Second.
Got a motion by Krista and a second by Ben to approve the service agreement as presented, subject to legal review. Any question on that motion? This is an agreement, involves money, roll call vote, Ben,
Aye.
Krista,
Aye.
Jarrett,
Aye.
motion passes. Thank you, council. Item number 6, discussion and action to consider approval of the Dameron Valley Vehicle Lease Agreement. Chief?
All right, good evening. So this is kind of a continued partnership with Dameron Valley Fire and Rescue. They kind of reached out to us. We're as part of our kind of the liquidation process that we have. This vehicle was sitting outside at the Circle Street station. They basically, what we want to do is it's a Type 6, so it's a wildland vehicle. It's a 2003. It's got pretty good or low mileage on it, but they're going to staff it. So that's the plan for this agreement. It's going to go basically for the term of the year, and December 31st, we can reevaluate that, or we can, if we want to revoke it at any time, we can give them 30 days notice. So it's only for $1. It's just basically it's a partnership. Like I said, the intent of the vehicle is to keep it within the service area. It's not going to go and serve state mission and make them revenue. That's not the intent of the partnership. So we'll respond into our area. Their staffing timeframe, I don't know what that'll be. I assume it's during the kind of the high points of the wildland time frame, which is usually like 11 to evening time. So, but they have folks to put their decal on it, and then they'll maintain it. There's a hold harmless in there for their staffing. If they were to get injured or harmed, we're obviously clear of that. And Matt Ince has reviewed it as well. So that's it. After 1 year, we can reevaluate and see what we want to do with the vehicle. And I think it's a good, like I said, continued partnership. Right now, they do. They have one of the fire academies in the area doing lots of training for us, and it's been free to this point. So a lot of folks are utilizing them for continued training. But like I said, it's been a great partnership with John Hennessy, chief up there. So any questions for me on that?
Cool. Questions for Andy?
Good.
Sounds like a good deal to me. Okay, council, I'd look for motion.
I'll make the motion that we approve the Dameron Valley Vehicle Lease Agreement as presented.
Second.
A motion by Ben and a second by Jarrett to approve the Dameron Valley lease agreement as presented. Any question on the motion? Let's do roll call. Jarrett,
Aye.
Krista,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
motion passes unanimously. Thank you, chief.
All right, thank you.
Council reports, man.
Oh, I got them loaded, man. You guys thought you were getting out of here early. No. Hey, on the first question is flooding. I was kind of hoping we would have met as flood control and we did not, just to have this discussion, but as a city, I know we clean channels. I know all of that, but where do we stand as far as preparedness? Do we, we really, it's the channel of the river.
Right. The concern is the Santa Clara River. Staff flew the river channel again following, we flew it in early February.
Yeah, it was just about 2-3 weeks ago.
And then we followed that up with a flight that zoomed out a little bit farther and gave you a little bit better view of the entire floodplain. And the Santa Clara through Santa Clara looked pretty good. I looked at all the video, looking for work areas or stuff that we needed to maybe send the troops in and do some. We were concerned about some of the beaver activity, but for the most part, that channel is in pretty good shape. We've got vegetation where we want it. And it's not so dense that the flood should be able to pass in the areas that there were some concerns. It's probably going to get tested this weekend. They're projecting rainfall up to an elevation of 8,000 feet, which would include most of the Santa Clara watershed, with the exception of the higher elevations on top of Pine Valley, but that takes in Guts Peak and most of the Pine Valley itself. And so I anticipate we're going to have some high flows that are going to start could start sometime on late Friday or Saturday. So we'll be watching it. The Gunlock is about 80% full. So it won't take long to fill the remaining capacity of the reservoir. You could see some spill this weekend. By the end of the weekend, you could see some overflow.
Yeah, we drove out there. It's only like 15 feet down. I mean, it's coming up fast.
Coming up fast.
Yeah.
So it won't take it long to fill and spill. And once the spill starts, then we'll have additional monitoring. I'm sure Chief Flowers has already talked to his guys that it's flood watch season, to where they pay attention to what's going on in the river, especially at night. The gauges are working right now. And so it's one of those, we've done what we can. We know it's coming, pay attention and muddle through. And if we need to mobilize the equipment to keep the bridges clear, Dustin's guys are on top of that.
I've also got contracts in place with 4 contractors that are obligated to come and help us with their hourly rates and the equipment that we would need, so that they can't get taken by another entity.
Okay. And I didn't know if there was, again, in the past, we haven't, it spills a bank, sandbagging is usually not an option, but I mean, have we had that need in the past on, it's equipment we need to keep the channels clear?
Yeah. Since in the early stages of the 2005 flood, before it had incised and kind of dropped in, we did have some residential flooding on the first day of that flood, but by the time the second day was over, everything was way above the river, and the homes we lost were undercut by the river and not flooded by the river. So with the armament, the majority of the section of the Santa Clara, especially adjacent to any kind of residential development or commercial development, is armored. We do have a few reaches that are unarmored, but they're also agricultural, farmland, or hillside areas on the south bank. Most of the developed areas have been armored, either as part of the development or in response to the 2010 flooding by the NRCS. And those have been pretty well maintained. You can see all that in the new aerial imagery. and it looks pretty good. So I think, with the agreements Dustin's got with the contractors to respond and our own people paying attention, that I think we're gonna be okay.
Gonna be a fun weekend. Gonna be a fun spring.
It'll be fun spring. You will be meeting, flood control will be meeting in April.
Okay, yeah, I figured we would. It'll be an active
And
spring.
we'd have probably set the meeting if we'd have known this atmospheric river was gonna come in at a warm temperature.
That's crazy. Yeah, it looks like it's back to back to back
Yeah.
again. So just as comment, I think everyone saw St. George release their power rates. I don't know if so I think it's not just us. It's going to be area wide to seeing those power rates. We did meet. We went to the water board, Washington County Water Conservancy Board meeting, which was actually kind of fun. It was a fun meeting to sit in. I did, and this is just for comment. I don't know the right answer. There was a comment that was made, just talking about the high water use commercial. And I'm assuming they were talking about Viracon when it came in down in Fort Pierce, the glass manufacturer down there. But it's a balance, because when Viracon came in, I'm kind of mixed on it. When Viracon came in, wages, decent wage in this area was about $12 an hour, and they started at like 17. So you get those manufacturers that, there was some comment about, hey, we don't want any of that and water use, but yet a lot of that manufacturing is also some of your better jobs in the manufacturing. So just kind of an observation and a thought there. I don't, one way or the other, we need the jobs, but we also need the water. So
One thing, as I was listening to that discussion, I was thinking that you're probably still gonna be able to do some of that, but you're gonna look at it kind of like the car wash. How much of that water can be recirculated and recycled? Or is there can they use, an irrigation effluent?
Yeah.
Their processes, and I think that, if we have certain things come here, I'm thinking that we may take that type of an approach to where you may still allow that industry to come, but you may treat it a little differently than you would your regular commercial or regular employment, and maybe direct it to an area that has access to those alternative water users. And if they have a process that can facilitate that.
And that's what I thought. I thought it just, like I said, I don't know the whole board's position on that. The comment was made. It was also made on, golf course as like no more golf courses. And yet, again, from both sides of it, it is a high water user, but you've got secondary and reuse and all of that. But it's also an economic driver to the area that pays bills and provides jobs. And so anyway, that'll be interesting as it moves along. But it was a great meeting and good to attend.
You've got a project that's going through Planning Commission out of the dialysis center. That's a fairly high water user. They want 1.5 meters. Is that right? 2 inch. That's a big water user. But that's a healthcare need that I think the community needs. We're gonna have to wrestle with those types of uses going forward and how we're gonna facilitate it.
And I think the answer, the easy answer is again, to really get multiple uses out of that water, have the storage capacity that we can utilize those and storage for both sides. So yeah, it'll be a conversation as long as we live. So
Right. For sure.
I did, the last one was just the sign out front. I didn't know if there was a better location for that sign instead of right in the front of our building.
Talking the public hearing sign.
The chain link fence, public hearing sign.
And we can move it. Anywhere.
Might be the minority on this, but
No, our thought of putting it there is also just trying to gather as many people as we can coming through to see the public hearings happening, get, you know, the information out. But we can, I didn't decide it across the street.
Well, across the street or one side of the other of the property, maybe on, I don't know if they're. Again, you want to get it visible, but I didn't know if there was enough room on this side because you got all your statues and kind of your historic side. It's right there. You come out to see the Glockenspiel, you're trying to take a picture and it's right there.
Yeah, we'll move it.
It's visible. I would like the other two's comments. It's very visible. We've got the word out, so. I'm surprised I'm the only one that's had residents. Like, has no one else had comments? That's crazy. Why would they come to me? You guys really go right to you. I don't listen. You listen.
My wife gets all the comments. I don't listen to her either.
But that again, we want it visible. I just didn't know if there was a place to put it where it wasn't quite.
In the park, I think would work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably
and
across the
the
street would be great.
probably a better,
Yeah.
give you the same visibility, and then people can enjoy the building, Glockenspiel, and that. So.
Good comments.
We'll make it happen.
That's all I
It'll be
have.
done tomorrow.
It'll have to be done tomorrow.
I know how the crew who puts that up. It'll be done before majority of us drive by in the morning.
I made a visibility comment on an intersection and it was done like the next morning. It was. Jim Ann made a comment. I just passed it on and it was done and looked amazing. So, yeah, I know how good they do. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thanks, Ben. Krista?
The Daddle puzzle update is that our committee has met and made some decisions, and the artist should have us what does he call it? Initial sketch by April 14th. So things are moving along, and they are planning on being here for the community dinner Thursday night for Swiss Days. That's all I have.
Awesome.
Did you, I didn't respond to your email, but
No, you did.
I know. Well, it's because I read it.
Responded.
I literally read it like 5 minutes before the meeting. I was like, just historical figures, persons, things like that. You had all the places I thought were fantastic. I just didn't know if any,
We do have
Of-
some historical.
I don't have any, but
Do you want?
no, I just didn't know if any came up in that meeting.
Yeah,
You want to know who?
quite a few.
I would like to, yeah.
Ensign Gubler, Ken Entz, that's Matt's grandfather. We talked about Jacob Hamlin, of course. We talked about several Fries.
Mhm.
Am I missing anyone?
But there'll be a lot more added. The Little League teams, the boys and girls Little League teams, the championship teams. And then as the like Dutchman, so Nick and Lisa, we're gonna have several of the historic buildings, and there'll be people with those buildings. Could come from history, could be modern day, some of them.
You get
Well, it makes it
those
both.
names included into some, perfect. I figured they would. I had to ask. So
Great.
great job.
But we can still take suggestions.
Yeah,
if
we're
you wanna
still
send something
taking
over.
suggestions, so.
I think that's great.
Is
I'm
boys
a transplant,
on the
so
list?
I'm just.
Boys
trying to
Pond's
make-
on there.
I do.
The river is on there, the streetscape is on there, did you send it to everybody? The updated list?
I didn't, but I will send that to the whole council.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be
and
perfect.
then if you got any comments or add-ons, just throw them out there. It's fun, it's kind of a fun committee.
I doubted on the puzzle, but I won't lie. I'm pretty excited. Nice work. So
You did doubt on the.
I just, it's just a lot of money,
It's gonna sell.
Oh,
It's a
it
lot of
will.
money, I think.
We'll go door to door.
It's gonna sell. I don't think we'll have any trouble.
I don't think so either. So.
Okay, Jared?
My only thing is just, I had got a complaint from a resident about our calendar being on our website being wrong. And so I don't know exactly how we want to solve that problem, because I know Christelle was in our meetings in the past, so she would know if something changed. But like, it still shows the work meeting on the first Wednesday. So we need to get that fixed ASAP, because there may be people that showed up last week because it said that on our website, but we didn't have a meeting. And then it'd be really good to get the blue can back on the calendar. And I know it wasn't very hard how Crystal had it set up, but that way a resident could check if it's a blue can week or not. I spoke with my brother-in-law who lives in St. George, and he actually can sign up for a text with the city when it's Blue Can Monday. He gets like a text the day before.
Is it through the
That's
city or
actually-
through the district?
Yeah, it's through the district. I get those.
Yeah. And we could, because what we would do is just link to the district. Because the district, you can go and put your address in and it gives you the calendar of when your date is, but I think the ones that I've seen through St. George, it all just links to the solid waste district's
Okay.
calendar and website. But we'll get that updated. We can get that fixed.
Okay. That's all I have.
We learned. Cool, that's it. All righty. The mayor's had a meeting in Cedar City yesterday, but I wasn't able to attend. I can update you on that. The water work group meeting is still meeting every week. And the city water work group is meeting as well. We're still working on amendments to the rural water supply agreement with the other member cities and the water district. We still don't have 100% agreement, and so we're meeting again in the morning to continue working on that, trying to get it figured out. We're trying to set up what I call a special irrigation area that would cover the historically irrigated portions of the valley. That would provide the ability for our ordinance that allows gardens and orchards, if they have their own secondary, to stay in place. Right now, the RWSA doesn't really allow that. It's the 0.59 everywhere. So they are coming up with a path that we can go to be able to preserve that feel and the vegetation in the valley, the ability to do gardens and orchard that our ordinance allows. I think we're going to get it based on the feedback that I'm getting. We'll probably have to make a presentation to the other cities, but the cities are represented, so it shouldn't be a surprise for them. So they'll hopefully we'll be bringing that RWSA to you for review and approval. When we get the information on the special irrigation area, we'll be bringing that in. I'll bring that to you guys before we make the presentation and let you see and kind of understand it. I've asked the city water group to recommend that. Once we get it ready, they would recommend action by the council, and then it'll come to the council when it's ready. And all right, covered flood control. There's a Congressman Stewart has a grant application for some earmark funding that Chief Flowers is working with the other chiefs in the county to go after funding for radios and some equipment, some things that were included in his budget that could be funded. I don't know if which federal program they're being funded out of, but that he's got to have everything turned into him by the 15th. Is that right, Chief? And so hopefully we could get some funding, some federal funding to help with some of our, our police costs that could help us with our budget going forward. Brock, do you want to give them an update on HB 360? Is it 360? The fire?
Oh, 392.
292.
Yeah. So House Bill 392, which is on the rural health, thought that passed through. So did need to do some additional research on it, but from what I understand now is it's left to the communities, I believe the councils, to put it on an agenda and see if they adopt to go forward with that 1% sales tax is what it was. Is House Bill 392 created an option that it was already legislation, but only accounted for the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th class counties, and had a provision in there for a 2nd class county that could get in based on 2 qualifications they had to have. Washington County qualifies for that to add the 1% sales tax. So from what I understand, if we wanted to move forward with that, the council would have to adopt it there in support of that. And then it would go on the ballot to the residents, see if they would adopt that 1% sales tax, which is earmarked for EMS services. So it'd be straightly just all restricted to EMS funding. With that, I believe the county also has to agree that because if the funding comes to them and then they distribute it out. So that was something that we would bring back to council for further discussion to see what, I mean, ideally it would be great to move forward with it on this November election if we want to have something in this current budget year that could possibly go into effect to January 2024. So we wouldn't see anything from it if it did pass through the council and through with the residents on the ballot. So, March of 2024 would be the first time we'd see anything from it. But we project that it would bring in about $1.3 million potentially for Santa Clara, which would roughly cover our portion, our 44% of the EMS budget. So it would really change things funding wise, help with the shortfall that we have currently looking towards the 2024 fiscal year, but ongoing. I think it really changes things for for EMS and for the rest of the general fund. So, but like we've discussed about different funding options, it's one that it's a 1% sales tax that anybody who comes here, everybody who comes through Santa Clara and stays in the nightly rentals, there'd be an increase on that at the stores. I mean, so everyone would help that comes through and stays here, help in funding that. So.
Thanks, Brock. Just a reminder, on Monday, March 13th at noon, Washington City is hosting a lunch and learn on what it takes to run an election. I think Krista's planning on attending that. You guys all should have got an announcement on it. If you didn't, let me know and we can forward you one if you're interested in attending that. Dustin, I got hit up again by the storm drain in back of, or up by Mel Taylor's. Have we fixed that yet?
We've been so busy on Vineyard Drive.
Okay.
I can have them sneak over there and get it done.
Okay, all right. I'd appreciate that. The same person hit me up about the restroom at the cemetery, so I'm sure that'll be in the budget when it comes around. So
$50 a month, porta potty.
that's what's up there now. Anyway, I think that's all I had. Brock?
Yeah, let me just add, with next week's meeting, with the site visit, the Black Desert, if we try to be here at 3:45, we can be up there by 4. We can make that happen, and then we'll be back here for the regular work meeting, starting 5:15. Be great. Also, just a reminder, I sent out the email on the League of Cities. I heard back from a couple on the League of Cities, April 19th through the 21st. To attend.
Did I respond?
I heard from Jarrett and Krista. We were the two.
I'll plan on.
Like to attend, we'll get you registered for that. And also on the 19th, though, is the UAMPS kind of launching. It kicks off at noon with lunch and goes till 4. So if you'd like to do that, I think it's get with Gary and we can get you registered on that one. So.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Matt, did you have anything else?
No.
Hey, anybody needing to add anything? All right, we don't have executive session tonight, right? And so all I need is a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion by Jarrett and a second by Ben to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please speak up.